Alright, what's up, YouTube? Back again, it's Silas here, and today we are going to continue uh, our series on the chakra system. We have been going through giving a layman's definition of what the chakra system is. I'll make sure that I link to the first video on the root chakra. It should be popping up. The little eye on the screen on the top right corner should take you to it, or I'll link it in the description. I'll probably just put it in that little box though. So we already went over the root chakra and what its purpose is and how you can tell how balanced or unbalanced it is. But today we're going to get into what I call the pleasure chakra. You will often also hear it go as the sex chakra, but I don't like to call it this, as that kind of confuses people on what it's really for. It's really a misnomer, which is when you give the wrong name to something. So it's really not a good name for it, because it has connections to sex, but is ultimately about many other things than sex. So to call it the sex chakra confuses people a lot. So we shall refer to it, as many others do, as the pleasure chakra. So what is that? Simply put, it's all about pleasure. Is in the name, is in the title. This is why, yes, it could refer to sex, but that's not the only thing in your life that gives you pleasure. There are many things that you do for pleasure. The pleasure chakra represents your connection to that identity of pleasure. So how much pleasure am I receiving? If this chakra is blocked, I mean, this doesn't have to be complicated, and I'm not gonna make it complicated. It's gonna seem like I'm oversimplifying it. I promise you I'm not. It really is this simple, and I wish they would just say that. A lot more people would be able to understand. But if it's blocked, you don't have a lot of pleasure in your life. Even the things you do for fun no longer bring you the same level of pleasure. You have to fight more for that. Something has to spontaneously shock you, and then it'll only last for a little while before maybe you put it down again. Maybe you have a huge spike of emotion at the beginning of a relationship, and everything is pleasure, 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 pleasure. Everything's good. And suddenly, their smile doesn't make you, it's not the same. It's not as much anymore. And it happens gradually usually, or it can happen all at once. Either way, they both point to your pleasure chakra being blocked. That's a straight up blockage. It's blocked. So you have difficulty, even you play your favorite game, you feel like you have to force yourself to keep playing, when you know this is the only one you wanted to play the most. Or was it? Maybe you should try something else. And you jump around from game to game. It's simple, y'all. Let's say it's open but out of balance. So you have an overactive pleasure chakra. But this, funnily enough, does not mean you're super happy all the time. Actually, it can kind of look a lot like just like the other one, where you end up not getting as much pleasure from activities, but for a different reason. You kind of burn yourself out by constantly seeking pleasure. You never take a break. You always want the next thing that feels good. And you retreat from anything that will bring you harm. That's overactive. It means you'll try to ignore your problems by playing the game, or listening to that song you really like. Now, those are good tactics. I'm not saying don't use those things. I'm just giving you identifiers. But, and you should have watched the root chakra video first, so remember what I said about labels. Don't be rushing to put no label on everything I'm saying just because I'm making it simple. You still have to take the time and listen to it and find where you are on a scale, not a platform, not picking a side. Said that last time. Say it again. And where, of course, you want to be is balanced. And a person with a balanced pleasure chakra, they will find great pleasure in their activities, usually because they are still reserved as special. Whereas you burnt out on it, you know, a overbalanced person will burn out on it by overusing it. Here's a good example for people who smoke. You know that one friend who can't really even smoke that much? Like, it's usually a girl who only smoke like every month or so. You know, they don't really smoke like that. And you let them smoke with you, and they ain't got all toe up. They just all in the wind. You like, girl, give me the rest of that, man. I still need like 2 more of these to get where you at. The reason why is that because they do it so infrequently, their pleasure chakra still reserves that as a huge shock. It's a huge boost of pleasure. But if you were to burn it every day, you're not gonna get as big as a pleasure response because you were overactive. You blew it out. This doesn't need to be much more complex than that. I could go on, but I think I really said it all already and would only be serving to add more layers. But if I could close, I would say, look at the things in your life that bring you pleasure and think to yourself, do I still get the same reaction that I got out of this as I used to? And if not, to how far a degree, and should I do something about that? That's all for me today.